Today, guys, we're going to be working on the T190. I'm going to start getting it ready to pull the engine. This engine runs good, but it leaks a massive amount of oil. So I either got a cylinder issue or a head gasket issue. Not really sure which one. But we're going to go ahead and just pull the engine out and start tearing it down, because I'm thinking it's a cylinder issue because this thing had a bad turbo, and I believe the previous owner let it ingest some metal into the cylinder, because I got a lot of low buy and pressure in the crankcase, and it also does seem to use a lot of oil. So the first thing we're going to do is you'd pull the battery out, which I've already done because I pulled it out to charge it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go ahead and pull this exhaust system off and get this out of the way, so that way I can have some more access in there. And then I'm going to start, you got to disconnect. Well, I think before I do anything with disconnecting too much, I might leave the oil pan, a little oil in it for now. I'm thinking I'm going to pull the starter off, get that out of the way, and then I'm going to start looking at this wiring harness and see if I can get all this wiring harness out of the way and pull the starter off and just try to get as much off back here as I can, so then I can get the engine out. I'm gonna have to figure out the fuel lines, what I need to disconnect to get that out, and I think I gotta disconnect all the mounts from that, because I believe I can leave some of the mounts. I gotta unbolt the other mount on the front side. I think I'm gonna have to take the alternator off. So I'm gonna have to pull the exhaust off up here, maybe pull the turbo off to get some more clearance on the top, maybe pull this intake tube off here. I'm gonna have to pull the flywheel off, pull the belt off, pull the starter off. Might pull this air box here out of the way, so that way I have extra access there. Gonna also have to drain the coolant, so I'm gonna have to find the coolant drains and drain the coolant out of the system. While I'm doing this all, I'm also going to replace this reservoir, because this one is really bad shape and it's actually got a little hole in it. So I'm gonna put a new reservoir on there. I'm also gonna look online and try to find my screen cover that I'm missing. We'll go to the other side real quick, so that way you guys can see. So we're gonna have to pull the alternator off right there that I've replaced. There are some oops, did not know I can move my mount that way. There's an engine mount down below, down there, that you can undo, so that way you can leave all the hydraulic pumps hooked up. Bobcat, I believe, says to pull the whole engine tray with hydraulic pumps out. I do not feel like getting into doing all them lines, so I'm going to try to see if I can pull the engine out without pulling all the hydraulic stuff off. I might see if I have to pull this cooling assembly setup off here. I might have to undo that and just pull that out of the way to get some more access in there. And I will see. It doesn't look that hard to pull off. You got a couple long bolts, and it looks like you can pull the whole assembly off as one piece. So I might do that just to make it easier for me. Not sure. Yeah, not sure if I want to put these arms here up or not. Look like some people did do them, put them up. I don't know if I will or not. I might leave them down, because while this is down, I might order these pins and put my brackets on the side for the Bobcat, the backhoe attachment. So, but that's what we're going to start doing today. So Alright guys, as you can see, there's the motor mount I was talking about before. It's down there below, so I'll have to take that and get that off. So I think what I'm going to have to do there to get really to it is I might just pull this coolant tube off here, because it's got to come off anyway. But then I can get down to the motor mount with that out. I can get in here through there. I'm probably just going to go ahead and disconnect this alternator now so I can get it out. Oops, I didn't mean to move you guys. I can go ahead and get that alternator off and out of the way, and I can have it so it doesn't get damaged. Alright, I've gone ahead and pulled the turbo off, pulled the airbox off too, just a couple of screws on that. If you guys want to see how to change a turbo, take a look at some of my other videos working on the skid steer. I put a new turbo on this one already, so it came off pretty easily. Now I'm going ahead and I'm pulling the wiring harness back. This is all alternator wiring here, which gets ran up and around. Everything gets ran through there, and then it went around and up top like so to the bolt there for the alternator. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this off. I'm going to sit down real quick, and what we have here is we got a bolt there. I'm going to unbolt that, pull this harness off, then tighten that bolt up, and then I'm going to do the same on that one there, because I'm not sure what's behind that plate off the top of my head, so I don't want to compromise anything by doing the bolts both at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this whole harness flipped back out of the way. And we also have some connections at the starter. So you can see the main power wire goes to the outer plug. Then we got the wires. When they're when you run the wiring harness, you really can't confuse them, but it's definitely possible. So I might actually go ahead and pull that off, because I got wires ran down behind it for something too. So I might go ahead and get the starter out of the way. So, but they're just solenoid wires. So we're gonna go ahead and get that pulled out of the way, and we'll go from there. I'm gonna give you guys a rundown of what I got going on. So as you've seen with time lapse, I've taken stuff off. I did take some more off that I didn't time lapse, like taking the intake off and the injector lines. You have to pull the lines first. It works best to start here with breaking them loose and then work in, because you gotta spin the wrench this way. So break these loose too, so that way you can move the line around. And I took the block warmer rail off, and I put the screws back so I don't lose the screws. And I pulled the intake off so that way I have some more room in here. So I'm just pulling just the engine, I'm not pulling the whole tray. I got the engine bolt mount unbolted here, so this bracket can stay with the engine. I did break them loose so that way I can get them off later on when I want to clean the block, if I need to paint it. I don't know if I'm gonna have to paint it, whatever. I'm gonna figure that out once I get the engine out. So the next thing I did is I removed, well, not really next thing, but in the end of the day, I removed all the bolts from here on this. They're all removed. And you got a bolt there and a bolt there, which should be all the bolts going through this into the engine block. And I bolted my chains onto where they are, the rings were. Then you also have a mount down here. Let me come around the other way. Oh yeah, also I removed the thermostat housing here to give me more clearance here on the filter. I was thinking about loosening this, but it's got rigid lines going up to the cooler up in there, and I just did not feel like getting into trying to move that around. I'm gonna see if I can leave that there, pulling the engine out. I might take it loose, I don't know, because you got this rigid line here, but it's got a 90 there and a 90 there, so it's not going to be the easiest thing to move. So I might try to leave it loose. The engine mount is down in that hole. Let me see if I can get in there. There you go. You got the 4 bolts there. The 2 bottom bolts, they're slanted, so I don't know if what I can do with them or not with putting it back on. I'll look at that later. So I just took them all 4 out for now because that was the easiest thing to do. And also I took out the coolant line that runs from the duct tape piece over to that other hose to get that out of the way. I took the turbo return line and the turbo pressure line off too. So that way that would be out of the way and I don't have to worry about snagging on anything. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this up and I'm gonna pull it out. I'll probably do a time lapse pulling it out because there's gonna be a bunch of noise and stuff because I'm gonna be using another skid steer. So I got my chain set up here so that way hopefully I can grab it and lift it.